Good morning, students. Last time we discussed about the transplant rejection, and we start with the AIDS or HIV. So we continue with it. So AIDS, as you all know, it is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So the three major routes of transmission is sexual transmission, parental and mother to infant transmission. I already told you that there are two subtypes, that is HIV 1 and HIV 2. One is most common in America, Europe and Africa, though it is also found in Asia as in India. HIV 2 is seen in Africa and India. This is the structure which I already taught you, that it contains the core antigen, that is predominantly two strands of RNA, single strands of two strands of RNA. Three important enzymes, that is reverse transcriptase, protease and integrase. Its capsid protein P24 antigen, then it is enveloped by the P17 matrix, and externally this outer envelope is formed by the two types of glycoprotein predominantly, that is GP41 and GP120. So for the initiation of infectivity or entering into the cell, the responsible antigen are the GP41 and GP120. Now the enzyme which is present in the core, that is the reverse transcriptase, is the main enzyme. The enzyme is used by retroviruses to transcribe their single-stranded RNA genome into single-stranded DNA, and then to subsequently construct a complementary strand of DNA, providing a DNA double helix capable of integration into the host cell chromosome. So the RNA viruses or single-stranded, they have single strand of RNA. First they convert into the DNA with the help of reverse transcriptase. The single copy of DNA is formed, and then there is complementary copy of DNA strand is formed, and this double stranded DNA integrate into the host cell chromosome and they retain there, and after the activation of cell they divide, and then again they translate or transcribe into the RNA, and then the active virions are formed. So the life cycle, I will tell you, life cycle of the HIV virion I will tell you. So HIV-1 RNA genome contains GAG, POL and ENV genes, which are typical of retroviruses. So this diagram is showing GAG, POL, this is GAG, this is POL, this is ENV gene and their certain function. In spite of these, there are other genes also, VIF, VPR, NEF, VPU, etc. So the products of GAG and POL genes are large precursor proteins that are cleaved by the viral protease to form the mature protein. Other accessory genes are TAT, RAV, VIF, NEF, etc., which regulate the synthesis and assembly of infected viral particle and the pathogenesis of the virus. Now HIV-1 isolates shows variability in certain parts of the viral genome, especially in the viral genome enveloped glycoprotein. So there are two types, HIV-1 and HIV-2, but HIV-1 has different enveloped glycoprotein properties. Because of this glycoprotein, there is difficulty in production of the vaccine against the HIV. So that is the main reason. The humoral response against the HIV-1 is targeted against its envelope, poses a problem in the development of single antigen vaccine. HIV-1 divided into three groups: M for major or most, then O for outliner and N for neither. So the M is the major and it is the most common type of group, O is outlier and N is neither. In spite of these groups, there are certain subgroups from graded as A to K types. Now coming to the pathogenesis of HIV, the two major targets of HIV infection are the immune system and the central nervous system. So there is profound immunodeficiency which primarily affecting the cell mediated immunity, which is the hallmark of the AIDS or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Now this diagram is showing the life cycle of the HIV virus. As you all know that the enveloped glycoprotein GP41 and GP120, they are very important for the primary antigenicity of the virus or for the entering into the cell. So virus, any foreign antigen first captured by, as you all know that they are first captured by the macrophages and dendritic cells, which are the primary capturing, antigen capturing cells in our body. They are distributed everywhere, and as well as the other are the CD4 cells. So these cells, like in this example, this is the CD4 cell. Okay. Now this GP41 and GP120 glycoprotein, first GP120 binds with this CD4 receptor molecule. So there is, this diagram is showing this binding of GP120 with the CD4 receptor molecule. So CD4 cells have CD4 receptor as well as chemokine receptor. Now chemokine receptor is the important receptor. There are three types: CXCR4 and CCR5. So CXCR4 and CCR5, they are two important receptor. When there is mutation in this type of receptor, there will the person is immune to the HIV infection. So less than 1% population of USA have this mutant both alleles of this gene, chemokine receptor gene. So they are resistant to the infection. But when the state is heterozygous for the chemokine receptor, then the patient has, or the susceptible person has delayed infection, but there is definitely disease. So for the mutant chemokine receptor, homozygous state is resistant to the HIV infection, which is less than 1% in American population. Now this chemokine receptor, which are of two types, CXCR4 and CCR5. CCR5 is M-tropic, means they bind with the monocyte macrophages, and they are the common type. Then other are the CXCR4, which bind with the T cells, and they are called T-tropics. Now there are M4 T-tropic both types, which are CCR5 and CXCR4. Now when this GP120 antigen bind with the CD4 receptors, there is conformational changes in the receptor molecule that will generate some binding sites that bind with these chemokine receptor, and after binding with the GP120 with the chemokine receptor, again there is conformational change, so that there is change in the GP41, and these GP41 are capable of introducing into the spikes into the cell wall. After the fusion of the GP41 with the the viral antigen with the cell wall, CD4 cell, there is HIV, the release of the HIV RNA genome into the cytoplasm of the CD4 cell here. Now there is free HIV RNA genome in the cytoplasm, and with the help of reverse transcriptase, as I already told you that there is important enzyme reverse transcriptase. With the help of this, there is synthesis of the proviral DNA, that is single-stranded DNA. After the single-stranded DNA, there is transcription, and there is formation of the complementary copy of the DNA. So this double-stranded DNA is there, and this is integrated into the host cell genome. This proviral DNA is integrated into the host cell genome, and here remains in the host cell genome in the quiescent stage up to the 7 years, 8 years. But when there is activation of the cell, CD4 cell, by the cytokines, different type of cytokines, or when different antigens are attacked in these people because of decrease in the immunity level of these cases, there is increase in the cytokine production, and after the cytokine production there is activation of the cell, and when there is activation of the cell there is activation of the proviral genome also, which is integrated in the host cell, and there is again proliferation of these virions, then formation of HIV RNA, and this HIV RNA comes into the in the cytoplasm and forming the HIV code structure. 2 RNA strands forming the HIV code structure, and these HIV code structure release from the cell by the budding, and many of these virions are stuffed in the cell and they release by the budding, and there is apoptosis and dying of the parent cell, that is CD4 cell. So they infect many CD4 cells, and there is many copies of the proliferated virions in the CD4 cells, and they release the by the budding in this from the CD4 cells, and there is loss of many and many CD4 cells, and that's why they will cause the decrease in the CD4 count and immunity. As you know that CD4 cell is the master cell for the regulation. They will help in regulation of different type of cell like CD8 cells, B cells. They promote the antibody formation with the help of different subtypes. Now this diagram is showing the electron microscopic picture of immature, mature and intermediate virions, early budding, late budding and mature new virions electron microscopically. Now HIV virions infects the memory and activated T cells, but is inefficient at productively infecting the naive T cells. Naive T cells are the immunologically inexperienced cells. So they doesn't infect naive cells, but in fact memory and activated cells. Because they infect memory cells, and memory cells are long lasting cells, that's why the HIV infection persists many years in these cells. Now naive cells contain, why the naive cells doesn't infect it? Naive cells contains an active form of an enzyme that induces mutation in the HIV genome. Now completion of the viral life cycle in latently infected cells occurs only after activation of the cell. So they are quiescent in the parent cell or CD4 cell or any other cell like macrophages and monocytes in their genome, and only after activation they will activate. So most CD4 T cells virus activation result in the cell lysis, because they release from the cell by the budding and there is lysis of the cell. Now activation of the T cell by antigen or cytokines will upregulates the several transcription factors including NF-kappa B that will stimulate the transcription of genes encoding the cytokines. So in resting T cells, NF-kappa B held inactive in cytoplasm by inhibitory signals. Stimulation of cells by antigen or cytokines leads to NF-kappa B to translocate to the nucleus. Now in the nucleus it binds to the sequence within the promoter region of the several genes like those of the cytokines which are expressed in the activated T cells. The long-term repeat sequence that flanks the HIV genome also contains NF-kappa B binding sites and can be triggered by the same transcription factors. So any environmental antigen, as the patient is immunodeficient and are infected with many antigens or many infections, so many infections. So that infection and HIV infection itself plus latently infected T cells will stimulate the NF-kappa B and will there is activation of HIV proviral DNA which is integrated in the host cell genome, and there is production of virions, there is proliferation of the production and proliferation of the virions, and ultimately there is release of the virions by the budding and there is cell lysis. Now activation results from HIV. The environmental antigen activation may be either result from the HIV itself or by the other infecting microorganism. So vicious cycle leads to destruction of the immune system. So many more HIV virions are integrated. There is stimulation by opportunistic infection or HIV itself, and there is proliferation of the virions infecting the different cells of the immune system, and there is release of such virions, and there is apoptosis and dying of the parent cell. Now this vicious cycle again and again leads to destruction of our cells of our immune system. Now the mechanism of T cell loss can be the direct killing of the cell by the virus, or there may be a chronic activation of uninfected cells by HIV or other antigen leads to apoptosis of cells by activation induced cell death, or abortive HIV infection activates the inflammasome pathway that will lead to cell death known as pyroptosis. Now HIV infects, as soon as the HIV detected by our immune cells like dendritic cells or CD4 or monocytes, macrophages, they all transported into the lymphoid organs, and there is progressive destruction and architecture and cellular composition of the lymphoid tissue. Now loss of immature precursor of CD4 T cells either by the direct infection of thymic progenitor cell or by the infection of accessory cells that secrete cytokines is essential for the CD4 T cell, that was essential for the T cell maturation. So there is loss of these cytokines also, and there is loss of precursors. Now fusion of the infected and uninfected cells both will lead to formation of the giant cell, and giant cell will die within few hours. Now the CD4 cells have different subtypes like Th1, Th17, etc. So loss of Th1 response leads to deficiency of cell mediated immunity, and there is increased susceptibility to infection by different types of microbes. So there is opportunistic infection. So selective loss of memory T cells leads to poor recall response. Now memory cells are very important for the when the primary antigen re-enters in our body. Suppose a patient has previously there is tuberculosis, he or she has tuberculosis, and again the Mycobacterium tuberculosis infect the person. Then our memory cells comes here and will destroy the antigen. But because of the poor selective loss of the memory T cell, there is poor recall response. There is no recall for the memory cells. Now low level of the latent infection even with potent antiretroviral therapy, which practically sterilizes the patient blood, and is due to the presence of virus in the macrophages, T cell, especially the memory T cell in the lymph node. So there is low level of latent infection is there because of persistence of the virus in the macrophages and memory T cells even after the antiretroviral therapy. Memory cells are long-lived cells. They are the important part of the vaccination. So memory cells are long-lived cells and are persistent reservoir of infection in the lymph nodes. Now loss of CD4 is the loss of master regulation. Because of loss of CD4, there is no cellular immunity because it controls the overall immune regulation. Now HIV infection of the non-T cell, infection of the macrophages and dendritic cells. These are the most important cells of the antigen dragging cells. They are important. They are found in the tissue like lungs and brains. Infected macrophages contains large number of viral particles present in the vacuole, and they allow viral replication but resistant to cytopathic effect of HIV, and they act as a reservoir. So they only act as a reservoir. There is no destruction within the cell. Now B cell function, polyclonal activation of B cell is there because of the germinal center B cell hyperplasia. Now this may be due to the infection itself or infection with the opportunistic microbes like CMV, cytomegalovirus and Epstein-Barr virus. In spite of this, they are unable to mount the antibody response against the in spite of the polyclonal activation, they are unable to mount the antibody response against the T cell dependent antigen. In the CNS, the macrophages and microglia are also macrophages like cells in the brain. So macrophages and microglia are the main cells in the central nervous system infected by the HIV. Neurons are not infected by HIV, and the neurologic deficit is caused directly by the viral products and soluble factor produced by the infected microglia. So the general immune abnormality in cases of HIV is the lymphopenia. So there is destruction of many CD4 cells are there, and because of loss of CD4 there is a loss of control of the immune system. So there is decreased all cellular activity of the immune system as well as humoral activity. Then decreased T cell function, decreased B cell activation. But if activation is there by opportunistic infection, then it will be the polyclonal type. Then altered monocyte macrophages function. Similarly, this diagram is showing same thing: lymphopenia, decreased T cell function, decreased B cell activation, altered monocyte macrophage function. Now coming to the natural history of HIV infection. So first of all, we divide the infection clinical phase or the infection into the three types. First or primary is the acute phase, second or phase is the chronic phase or clinical latency phase, and third is the full-blown disease, that is AIDS. Now this diagram is showing the natural history. So first of all, there is infection, HIV virions here. This is the epithelium. Now first of all, the epithelium try to restrict the HIV virions entry, but as soon as they entered, they are grabbed by the dendritic cells and CD4 cells. So dendritic cells, with the help of MHC antigen, it will grab it and present it goes into the lymph node and presented it to the different CD4 and CD8 T cells. Now CD4 cells which directly grab it will also goes into the lymph node. So both type of cells which grabs the antigen comes into the lymph node, and there is because of the encounterment of this HIV virion to the CD4 cells, there is proliferation, integration and proliferation within the cell, and there is budding. So they are released, and this cell may go in apoptosis, or they will die. So there is death of the mucosal memory CD4 T cells. After that, the other cells which transport the antigen into the lymph nodes. So infection is established in the lymphoid tissue or lymph node, and they proliferate here. They proliferate here and release from here. They will cause viremia because there is spread of infection throughout the body. They multiply, they release from here, and there is phase of viremia. After the viremia, there is immune response against these HIV virions. So there is production of anti-HIV antibodies and HIV specific cytotoxic lymphocytes. They also help to restrict it, and this is the phase of immune response, and that these two function will cause partial control of the viral replication. So this is the phase of establishment of chronic infection. They will remain in the host cell genome. The virus remain there in host cell genome in a quiescent stage, and there is establishment of the chronic infection. So virus is concentrated in the lymphoid tissue. There is low level of virus production. There is clinical latency. This is the phase of clinical latency. So in this phase, the virions may remain for many years, even 7 to 10 years. As soon as the patient's immunity goes down and there is attack of other microbial infection, that is known as opportunistic infection, they will cause release of cytokines that will upregulate the cell, and there is activation of the cell. As there is activation of the cell, there is also activation of the virions which are integrated in the host cell genome. So there is increased viral replication, and then that will cause destruction of the lymphoid tissue, depletion of CD4 cells, and there is full-blown disease of AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Now, this diagram is showing here the weeks and years, here the CD4 T cell count. So as you see, there is rise in the antigen level of the HIV in initially first 12 weeks or first 4 or 12 weeks, and this is known as possible acute HIV syndrome with wide dissemination of virus and seeding into the lymphoid organs. So this is the phase of the acute infection. So there is this is maximum at the 4 week, and then it goes down and reaching the basal level. So this is the level from 12 weeks to 7 years. This is the phase of clinical latency, and after that, because of the opportunistic infection, there is rise in the antigen level, and there is full-blown disease with opportunistic infection and leads to death. Now these are the antibody levels. So there is rise in the antibody level only after the 12 weeks, when there is declining in the antigen level. So this initial period of 4 weeks is known as the window period, and the window period is very important because the patient is infective in this state but can't be recognized by our routine screening test. So for the window period, we have a special test for the detection of the P24 antigen and the viral RNA antigen. But the antibodies are detected only after 4 weeks, so they are rise after 12 weeks. Now this graph is showing this pink color is the antigen level. These are the viral particles in the plasma. They are at peak at the 4 week. Then this is the antibody levels, which rises from 6 weeks to the 12 weeks and then rising on. And this is the green color is the P24 antigen. Green blue color is the P24 antibody, sorry. This rises after 6 weeks. Now coming to now this diagram is showing this table is showing the different infection, opportunistic infection in HIV patients, like protozoan and helminthic infection, cryptosporidiosis, pneumocystis, toxoplasmosis, fungal infection like candidiasis, cryptococcosis, coccidioidomycosis, histoplasmosis, bacterial like Mycobacterium, nocardia, salmonella, viral like CMV, herpes simplex, HHV8, varicella zoster virus, and different neoplasm like Kaposi sarcoma, lymphoma of the brain, and basic cancer of uterine cervix. So most important infection in the HIV patient is the protozoal or helminthic infection like Cryptosporidium, Pneumocystis carinii or Pneumocystis jirovecii infection and toxoplasma. Then fungal infection like Candida and coccidioidomycosis, histoplasmosis, etc. Bacterial like TB, nocardia, salmonella, CMV, viral like CMV, herpes simplex, etc. This diagram is showing the lung infiltrate, and histopathologically it shows the Pneumocystis carinii infection. This is the epithelium, is showing the Cryptosporidium infestation. Then caseating granulomas are there, maybe the tubercular. Then most important is the cancers of AIDS. Now in HIV patients, because of the immunodeficiency, there is opportunistic infection, and these certain viruses will cause the neoplasms in the AIDS patients. Like Kaposi sarcomas are caused by the HHV8, human herpes virus 8. CNS lymphoma is caused by the same virus. Now B-cell lymphomas caused by the Epstein-Barr virus. Carcinoma cervix, that is squamous cell carcinoma caused by the human papilloma virus, HPV. So the tumors in the AIDS patients are categorized into the two categories: AIDS-defined cancer and non-AIDS defined cancer. So AIDS-defined cancers are the cancers of the skin, CNS, lymph node and cervix. In the skin there is Kaposi sarcoma, HHV8, CNS immunoblastic lymphoma, HHV8 caused by HHV8. In lymph node, Burkitt's lymphoma caused by Burkitt's lymphoma, diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, that is DLBCL, primary effusion lymphomas, plasmablastic lymphoma, etc. caused by the Epstein-Barr virus. Then cervix, in the cervix there is cervical squamous cell carcinoma caused by HPV. Non-AIDS defined cancers are of anal origin, liver, lymph node, conjunctiva and uterus, like in anal carcinoma, hepatocellular carcinoma in the liver. Lymph node में in the lymph node Epstein virus, conjunctiva, squamous cell carcinoma, and uterus leiomyosarcoma. Now what is the definition of AIDS? The WHO gives the definition of AIDS is that an adult or adolescent more than 12 years of age is considered to have AIDS if a test for HIV antibody is positive and one of the following conditions are present. What are these conditions? There may be any one of these: more than 10% weight loss or cachexia with diarrhea, fever or both, or cryptococcal meningitis, or pulmonary or extrapulmonary tuberculosis, or Kaposi's sarcoma, or neurological impairment, or esophageal candidiasis, or life-threatening or recurrent pneumonia with or without known etiology, and cervical cancer. Any of these conditions may persist with this, then it will be the case of AIDS. Now, how to diagnose these cases? So, blood samples are collected with universal precautions. Universal precautions are very important because if they are not taken properly, they can be the source of the infection. So, samples testing includes blood, serum, plasma, saliva and urine. They are excreted, they are present in every sample or body fluids present in the body. So, the sample tested are the blood, serum, plasma, saliva and urine. A specimen should be transported immediately, but if delayed is there, it should not be more than 24 to 48 hours. Serum and plasma can be refrigerated at -20 degrees for a week. Now, initial 4 weeks or to 8 weeks are the very important. They are known as the window period. It begins at the time of infection and can last 4 to 8 weeks. The infected person is infectious and viremic with a high viral load and negative HIV antibody test. So, if we screen these patients, there is negative test. So, they are not positive in our routine screening test, that is ELISA test. The point when the HIV antibody test become positive, the day in which the HIV antibody test become positive is the point of seroconversion because of the presence of the HIV antibodies. Now, this graph is showing this 0 to 4 week is the window period, and after 4 week there is presence of antibody. This is the antibody which are detected by our screening test ELISA. But before this window period is very dangerous because they are not detected by the routine screening test ELISA. So, here is the antigen, this viremia is there and their person is very infectious at this stage and there is no detection with the screening test. Then what we do, that we detect it with the help of polymerase chain reaction test, that is PCR, and P24 capture antigen. These two antigens are detected, P24 core antigen and the envelope proteins are detected by the PCR. So, the window period is very important at this stage because person is very infective and can be detected by certain important tests which are not done in routine or in screening. So, what are the screening tests for the HIV infection? Mostly they are ELISA tests like ELISA, simple ELISA, rapid ELISA. ELISA is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. So, they detect IgG and IgM in the patient sample. Now, particulate agglutination test also detect IgG, IgM, but in that the principle is somewhat different, and there is visual readout of the particle clumping. Means there is clumping of the particles or antigen antibody reaction is visualized. So, they are better than all these tests. Then antigen capture and immune dissociation. These tests detect the P24 antigen, that is core antigen, and these are very important in the window period. Once we do screening test, and then if it is positive in screening test, then we test for the confirmatory for the HIV in the confirmatory test. The different confirmatory tests are Western blot test, immunofluorescence. They both detect IgG antibody. Then nucleic acid testing, they detect HIV RNA, as well as HIV RNA detection test also detect HIV RNA viral load. Then HIV DNA detection test is used with the help of RT-PCR. We can find out the infection. Now, ELISA, false positive test is seen in person immunized against the influenza vaccine up to 3 months before the test, and the patient which are positive for the rheumatoid factor, chronic alcoholism, they also give false positive test. Now, false negative means the person has HIV infection, but it is negative on test is seen only in cases of advanced AIDS disease because of the less amount of the antibodies in these cases and during the window period. Now, particle agglutination assay, based on the ability of sera containing the HIV antibody to cross-link small particles containing HIV antigen on their surface. It has a high sensitivity and specificity because as well as they are very important because we directly visualize the reaction. Now the disadvantage is that there is subjective error. Now ELISA can be categorized as first, second, third, fourth generation, and the third, fourth generation is very important for the short window periods. Nucleic acid testing. NAT test is adjunct but not replacement of the serological test like ELISA. So various tests are PCR, RT-PCR, that is polymerase chain reaction, NASBA, nucleic acid sequence based amplification, and bDNA, that is branch chain DNA. It is best in detecting HIV during the seronegative period due to small window period, and the disadvantage is that it is high cost. Now the rapid visual test, that is TRIDOT test, it is used for different detection of HIV-1 and HIV-2 antibodies, that is IgG, in the human serum against the antigen GP41 and GP120 and GP36. Now routinely this is done in our blood banks to detect the HIV-1 and HIV-2. Now the principle is that reaction of immobilized antigen with antibody present in the serum conjugates binds with the Fc portion of the HIV antibody to give distinct pinkish purple dot against a white background, and results are confirmed by the confirmatory test. So it can be used as a primary screening test. Other tests are the immunofluorescence test, like in this the antigen bind with some immunofluorescence antigen. In radioimmunoperception, the antigen bind with some radioactive substance. Now the important test for the prognosis, to see the prognosis of the patient, we do CD4 T cell count regularly. So CD4 T cell count, it is the best indicator for the immediate state of the immune system. The normal CD4 count is 500 to 1600 international unit per liter, and the CD8 is 375 to 1100 international unit per liter. So the ratio of both is 0.9 to 1.9. Now CD4 T cell count is performed in every 3 to 6 months, and it is most reliable indicator of the disease progression. HIV RNA determination is highly sensitive and precise. It is essential component in monitoring the HIV infection. Now this CD4, one more thing, the CD4 cell count, we categorize it into the three categories, that is the cells below the cells more than 500 per cubic microliter, more than 500 per cubic microliter, then 200 to 499 per cubic microliter, and then last one is the less than 200 cells per cubic microliter. So we categorize into the three categories, and clinically they will be correlated. Like clinically we can categorize A, B, C category. In A category the patient is asymptomatic, and if and we see the cell count. If cell count is 500, then we label it A1. If it is between 200 to 499, then A2. If it is more than 500, then less than 200, then it is A3. Similarly in B, symptomatic patients, if it is more than 500, B1, 200 to 499, B2, and less than 200, then it is B3. And the third category, that is C category, is the AIDS, which can't be further differentiated. Now what is the reporting procedure? So these are the important tests, like HIV test for the HIV, like ELISA test, different type of ELISAs, then antigen capture test, PCR, P24 antigen test, then TRIDOT test. So they are immunofluorescence test, radioactive immunoassay. So they are very important tests, and but we first as soon as we receive the patient, first we go for the screening test and then for the confirmatory test. Then how we report the test? We say negative report if the initial screening test shows a non-reactive result. If we go for screening test and the result is non-reactive, then we say it is negative report. if we go for the, when we say positive report, at least 3 screening tests shows reactive results concordantly and subsequently sample retested before reporting. When we say intermediate report, there is discordant or disagree result by the 3 screening test, follow-up samples to retest at 2 weeks, 3 and 6 months before report dispatched, and if the result remains indeterminate after a year, then the person is said to be HIV negative. So this is the procedure of reporting the test in cases of, in the samples of the infection, HIV infection. Now that's all about the HIV infection. I hope that you can understand the facts about the HIV and AIDS. That completes the immune system and AIDS. In the next class, I will give you some questions about this immune system. Please go through the lecture and with your textbook, study it, learn it, and I will ask some questions, so you have to answer that. Thank you.